She thought the cameras had stopped rolling, that the mics were off, that for once she was in control. But what came next could cost Meghan Markle everything. A $10 million lawsuit, a Netflix collapse, public backlash so fierce even her most loyal fans are walking away. But it's not just about bath salts or burned skin. It's not just about lemon zest fails or overpriced jam. It's about a brand that's breaking apart at the seams, and a truth Meghan hoped would never surface. Because behind the glossy Instagram posts and tearful podcasts lies something darker, something tightly controlled, something manufactured. And now it's all unraveling. The lawsuit is just the start. There's a failed Netflix deal, embarrassing public appearances, a lifestyle brand scandal, and royal-level entitlement that refuses to die, even after the titles were stripped away. What Meghan's trying to sell isn't working anymore. And the public? They're not just skeptical, they're furious. So, is this the fall of Meghan Markle's empire, or just the beginning of something even more calculated? Let's break down the scandal piece by piece.
You look lovely.
Thank you, so do you.
Before we get into it,
It does seem perfect, doesn't it? We can have a fresh start here. Lead a normal life and have babies. Can we? Can we rally him up here and finally have our own privacy? My love, I will do anything for your privacy.
It started with a recipe, just a simple homemade bath salt mix, casually mentioned in a feel-good Netflix series. Meghan Markle, glowing on screen, offered viewers a moment of self-care, a sprinkle of lavender, a dash of sea salt, a DIY wellness trick from the Duchess herself. But that calm, curated moment? It's now the center of a legal nightmare. A woman claims she followed Meghan's bath salt instructions to the letter and ended up with catastrophic burns. We're not talking about a rash or irritation. According to legal filings, the burns were so severe they required urgent medical treatment, and she's now threatening to sue for $10 million, yes, $10 million, all from a recipe that aired on Netflix under Meghan's name, with no disclaimers, no warnings, and no medical guidance. It sounds absurd, until legal experts started weighing in. Not one, but two separate attorneys who reviewed the case said the lawsuit could have legs. As in, it's not just a cash grab. There's a real chance Meghan and Netflix could be held accountable. Attorney Christopher Melcher, a well-known legal analyst, pointed out the glaring omission. No disclaimer, no small text warning viewers to consult a doctor. Nothing to legally protect Meghan or Netflix from the fallout. And for a platform with the kind of resources and legal teams Netflix has, that's a massive oversight. And here's where it gets messier. The woman behind the claim says she's willing to settle quietly. If Meghan cuts a check, she'll go away. But if not, she's prepared to take this public and file a full lawsuit. Some people are calling it a shakedown. Others say it's about accountability. But regardless of which side you believe, one thing is undeniable. The public is watching. The press is circling. And Meghan, she's silent. No statements. No response. Just a looming PR disaster hanging over everything she's built. Worse still, this isn't some rogue headline. It's gaining traction, fast. TikTok is flooded with breakdowns of the recipe. YouTube creators are picking it apart frame by frame. News outlets are highlighting Meghan's lack of comment and questioning whether her so-called authenticity is even real. And if you think this whole mess stops with one lawsuit, think again. Legal insiders are already warning that if a settlement happens, it could open the floodgates. More victims could come forward. More claims, more lawsuits. All from one segment of a Netflix show meant to humanize Meghan. But the most dangerous part? This scandal didn't come from a tabloid hit piece or royal gossip. It came straight from Meghan's own content, her brand, her message, her control. And that's what makes it so explosive. Because the next blow, it came from inside the very company she thought would protect her.
It's allegedly from the Duchess's do-it-yourself bath salt recipe. This is a recipe that Kinsey featured on her Netflix show. What else can you tell me about this?
Well, I could tell you I spoke to two attorneys about this. Both said this potential lawsuit could, no pun intended, have legs.
While the bath salt lawsuit brewed behind the scenes, Meghan Markle was already dealing with another disaster, one that struck at the heart of her carefully curated rebrand. Netflix, once her golden ticket to media domination, pulled the plug on her flagship cooking show. And it wasn't delayed, It wasn't reworked, it was canceled. Quietly, brutally, without a second season. Insiders didn't mince words. The show was labeled awkward, tone-deaf, and painfully forced. And for a platform that thrives on polished storytelling and global reach, Meghan's kitchen-based content felt off. The concept was simple. Meghan, apron-clad and smiling, inviting viewers into a raw, cozy version of her domestic life. Think Martha Stewart meets royal escapee. But instead of inspiring viewers, it made them cringe. One of the most talked about scenes showed Meghan struggling, visibly, to zest a lemon. Viewers joked she looked like she was about to injure herself. Others said she looked like someone who'd never actually stepped foot in a kitchen. The internet did what it does best. It tore the moment apart. TikToks roasted her knife skills, Reddit threads exploded with mockery. One viral comment summed up the entire series in a sentence: "She looks like someone pretending to be normal and not doing a great job." For Netflix, that kind of reception was a red flag. The show wasn't just underperforming, it was embarrassing. Executives knew they couldn't afford to double down on content that made them look like fools. And so, the decision came swiftly. The project was dead, canceled, mid-run. No press release, no proper goodbye, just quietly removed from the spotlight like it never happened. But Meghan didn't take the news well. Sources close to the production say she was furious. She felt blindsided, betrayed, and completely dismissed by the very platform she believed was backing her new image. Phone calls were made. Accusations flew. One insider claimed Meghan went on a full-blown tirade, demanding to know how Netflix could kill a project she had worked so hard on. But behind closed doors, execs were reportedly fed up. One described the show as a PR liability disguised as lifestyle content. Another said bluntly, "It wasn't charming, it was calculated. It didn't land because people don't buy what she's selling anymore." Critics echoed that sentiment. For a woman who claimed she left royal life to be more authentic, the series felt manufactured, like cosplay for relatability. A duchess making banana bread for middle America. Nobody was buying it. And that's the problem Meghan keeps running into. The more she tries to rebrand, the more obvious it becomes. She's not building a new identity. She's performing one. And audiences? They're starting to see through it. But the real danger wasn't what Netflix did. It was what Meghan did next. And it would drag her deeper into controversy than ever before.
Attorney Christopher Melcher, who's based in Hollywood here, told me that Netflix could have and probably should have put a disclaimer on the screen to save their own skin, saying, consult a doctor or seek medical advice if you're looking for something specific. Now, the Meghan fan, this is crazy, said she's willing to resolve the matter without litigation if a financial settlement can be reached. Feels like a little bit of a shakedown. But if her demands are not met, she intends to launch a lawsuit seeking settlement damages of a minimum of $75,000 to cover medical expenses.
When Netflix pulled the plug, it wasn't just a canceled show. It was a personal blow to Meghan Markle's ego. The cooking series was supposed to be a new beginning, a carefully crafted vehicle to win back public sympathy and showcase her real self. Instead, it became yet another failed chapter in an increasingly chaotic media empire. Behind the scenes, Meghan didn't just express disappointment. She exploded. Insiders say she was blindsided, furious, desperate to regain control of the narrative she thought she owned. According to sources close to the production, Meghan called emergency meetings with her team, vented to executives, and demanded answers. She reportedly couldn't understand how something she poured her soul into could be killed so quickly. But the truth? Netflix had already made up its mind. One anonymous insider claimed, "She kept saying, 'I worked so hard, but hard work doesn't matter when the end product doesn't connect.' She was furious, but she wasn't listening. She was spiraling, and that spiral only gained momentum. In private, Meghan was said to be venting about betrayal. By the media, by Netflix, by the public. She couldn't comprehend how her story of reinvention had turned into a punchline. The image she had worked tirelessly to build, vulnerable, inspirational, raw, was collapsing in real time. To make matters worse, she wasn't getting the sympathy she expected. Instead of outrage over the cancellation, public response leaned heavily toward mockery. Social media lit up with memes. Users posted parody recipes with disclaimers like, "Warning, may cause lawsuits." Even former fans started asking the same question. Was it ever real to begin with? Critics didn't hold back either. Columnists slammed the show's awkward tone. Culture commentators called it a misfire. One wrote, "It didn't feel like a woman being herself. It felt like a woman trying to be what she thinks the public wants." And perhaps that's the problem. Everything about Meghan's public life feels intentional. The lighting, the language, the wardrobe, the unscripted tears, it all comes with a calculated polish. And the more she tries to appear vulnerable, the more audiences feel manipulated. Netflix executives reportedly felt the same way. One insider summed it up in a single sentence. "We weren't producing a documentary. We were managing a brand, and the brand was becoming too toxic to touch." But Meghan wasn't ready to give up. No, she still believed she could control the narrative. If Netflix wouldn't help her tell her story, she'd tell it herself. Louder, rawer, and on her own terms. Her next move? A stripped-down podcast, pitched as her most honest, unfiltered project yet. No stylists, no spin, just Meghan, allegedly being real. But what was meant to save her image only exposed it even further. After the Netflix fallout, Meghan Markle wasn't retreating. She was doubling down. If the cooking show didn't land, she'd go even deeper, more vulnerable, more real. That was the pitch behind her next project. A podcast meant to strip everything down. No glam squad, no palace drama, just Meghan, raw, emotional, relatable. That was the idea, at least. The podcast rolled out with heavy marketing. Trailers promised unfiltered stories and deep conversations. Meghan claimed she'd be hosting in sweats, makeup free, with her guard down and her heart open. One early episode even featured her breaking into tears, or so it seemed. Except there were no tears. Not really. In one now viral clip, Meghan claimed she was overwhelmed by emotion. Her voice trembled. She spoke slowly, as if fighting through deep vulnerability. But viewers quickly noticed something odd. No actual crying. No misty eyes. No cracked voice. Just dramatic pauses and a carefully controlled tone. Then came the footage. Meghan, sitting perfectly lit, hair flawless, skin glowing. For someone allegedly barefaced and emotionally stripped, she looked suspiciously red carpet ready. And people noticed. Social media didn't just question the moment, it dismantled it. Users began resurfacing old footage of Meghan bragging about her ability to cry on command. "Left eye," she joked in one interview, before demonstrating the trick with eerie precision. Now, that quote took on a whole new meaning. Was she crying from emotion or performing it? Critics labeled the podcast fan fiction disguised as vulnerability. Instead of an interview, it felt like a carefully scripted monologue. Compliments flowing endlessly, no hard questions, no real tension. Meghan's guest, Jaime Kern, Lima, a self-made billionaire with an incredible backstory, was reduced to a prop in Meghan's image rehab tour. Even more damning, Meghan repeatedly insisted that none of the questions were shared in advance, that the show was spontaneous. But the tone told a different story. The chemistry felt forced. The moments felt staged. And the whole experience? It reeked of strategy, not sincerity. One reviewer called it a masterclass in artificial intimacy. Another said bluntly, "She's not being real. She's playing the role of someone who wants you to think she's being real." And perhaps that's why this project hit even harder than the others. The podcast wasn't a royal documentary or a celebrity cooking show. It was supposed to be the one place Meghan could reclaim her voice. But instead of feeling honest, it felt hollow. Instead of rebuilding trust, it deepened skepticism. And the internet was ruthless. Clips from the podcast were stitched into comedy skits. Influencers mocked her emotional rawness. Hashtags like Chadar, Oscar for Meghan, and Left Eye Cry started trending. The same public that once sympathized with her story now rolled their eyes at every dramatic pause and teary monologue. But Meghan wasn't done yet. No. Her next move was so bold, so tone-deaf, it would spark a backlash louder than anything she'd faced before. And it all came down to a gift basket, and a title she no longer had the right to use. If there's one thing Meghan Markle has mastered, it's packaging. From polished interviews to pastel-filtered Instagram posts, every move is calculated to present the perfect version of herself. But even her most loyal supporters were stunned when a seemingly harmless gesture, meant to show kindness, ignited one of the biggest public embarrassments of her post-royal life. It started with a gift basket. Reports emerged that Meghan had been sending out artisanal gift boxes to friends filled with handmade jams, strawberry sauces, and other delicacies under her new lifestyle brand, As Ever. It all seemed innocent enough, a touch of thoughtfulness. A rebranding of the Duchess as a wholesome, entrepreneurial woman next door. But then someone posted a photo of the card included in the basket. That's when everything changed. Printed in elegant cursive script. The signature read, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. 3 things immediately stood out. First, the title, Her Royal Highness. That wasn't just overkill. It was a direct violation of the terms laid out by the royal family when Meghan and Harry stepped down from their official duties. Queen Elizabeth had made it crystal clear, you can't be half in, half out. If you leave the institution, you leave the titles behind. Second, this wasn't some public-facing product label. This was a private message, a card intended for close friends, meaning Meghan wasn't using the title for branding or recognition. She was using it because somewhere deep down, she still believed she had a right to it. Third, the timing. This happened while Meghan was actively pushing her new image as an independent woman, detached from the monarchy. No palaces, no pageantry, just authentic living and honest business. Yet here she was, signing gift baskets like she was still sipping tea with the Queen. And the internet erupted. Critics called it desperate. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from disbelief to full-blown mockery. She's not letting go of that title, one post read. It's like she printed it on her soul. Another viral tweet captured the sentiment perfectly. Imagine leaving the royal family, begging for privacy, then signing your jam jars with a title you don't even have anymore. Even her supporters couldn't defend it. Longtime fans admitted the gesture felt cringe, performative, and embarrassingly tone-deaf. And this wasn't just a PR blunder, it was a glimpse into Meghan's mindset, a moment that peeled back the branding and exposed something raw, a refusal to fully let go of the crown she claimed to reject. Because for all her talk of independence, there's a pattern. Meghan constantly shifts between the image of a modern, self-made woman and a royal figure wronged by the institution. And in trying to be both, she's losing credibility as either. But if you thought a signature was enough to spark outrage, just wait. Because Meghan's next move wasn't handwritten, it was mass-produced. And it would turn her brand from aspirational to accusational overnight. If Meghan Markle's gift baskets raised eyebrows, her official launch of the As Ever lifestyle brand nearly caused whiplash. Billed as a sleek, serene alternative to the chaos of celebrity culture, the brand promised elevated essentials, homemade, jams, curated kitchen goods, pastel packaging, and a refined taste of Meghan's authentic domestic life. But what was meant to be a comeback quickly collapsed into chaos. The products launched with massive buzz. Instagram teasers, influencer shoutouts, and subtle drops across media platforms all hinted that Meghan's brand was finally here. And then, boom, everything sold out within minutes. At first, it looked like a win, the kind of demand most lifestyle entrepreneurs dream about, until customers started talking, and something didn't add up. Tracking numbers weren't working. Emails went unanswered. Refunds weren't processed. Days passed, then weeks. People who had snagged early orders of the jam, sauces, or candles realized they weren't receiving anything at all. Then the truth began to trickle out. According to multiple reports, there was barely any real inventory. Insiders revealed that, As Ever, had only produced a tiny batch of products before launching, nowhere near enough to meet the demand. That sellout? It wasn't a result of overwhelming success. It was a staged move, a manufactured illusion of popularity. Critics immediately pounced. One media analyst called it a fake scarcity stunt, a tactic often used in luxury drops to artificially inflate hype. But for a brand touting honesty, mindfulness, and simplicity, the move felt calculated, even deceptive. Even worse, the prices. A single jar of jam from As Ever was reportedly being sold at luxury brand prices, pushing well past $20 for a few ounces. A quick scroll through product descriptions revealed a bizarre tension. Items that claimed to be accessible and for everyone, but priced for elites. People weren't just confused, they felt duped. Social media was merciless. Customers posted screenshots of empty tracking pages, snarky memes about Meghan's phantom jam, and sarcastic reviews of a product they never actually received. Hashtags like Sheer Jamgate and Yar Asif Ever started trending. And then Meghan made it worse. Instead of owning the mistake, she pivoted. Fast. suddenly, as ever was expanding. Trademark filings revealed plans for yoga mats, pet bowls, tea towels, even garden tools. The brand was trying to slap a logo on everything under the sun, turning what was supposed to be an intimate lifestyle experience into a bloated merchandise machine. To critics, the message was clear. Meghan wasn't creating a brand rooted in purpose. She was monetizing a persona. And for someone who famously said she left the royal family to pursue meaningful work, the optics were brutal. From heartfelt tears to commercial trademarks, the shift was jarring. Even former supporters began questioning whether Meghan's brand was about empowerment or exploitation. But if you thought overpriced jam was the peak of the cringe, you haven't heard what came next. Because Meghan's next big public appearance was supposed to redeem her image. Instead, it became the meme that refused to die. Meghan Markle had one more card to play, a high-profile speaking appearance at the prestigious Time 100 summit. It was supposed to be her moment, a public reset, a chance to step into the spotlight, not as a duchess, not as a victim, but as a respected thought leader. But instead of reclaiming her narrative, Meghan delivered a performance so out of touch, so bizarre, it turned her into an internet punchline. Not because of a scandal, not because of a slip-up, but because of what she said and how she said it. Standing on stage, perfectly styled and smiling, Meghan launched into a monologue about dried flower petals. Yes, flower petals. She described how she had recently discovered the joy of sprinkling them on scrambled eggs. Not for flavor, not for nutrition, just because they made her feel something magical. The exact quote, "Tiny, little flower petals that are dried. I started putting them on salads. I started putting them on scrambled eggs. There's a level of charm that I can't fully wrap my head around." The audience didn't know how to respond. Neither did the internet. Within hours, the clip went viral, for all the wrong reasons. Critics called it word salad. Viewers accused her of sounding like someone who's never actually made breakfast. One comment went viral. Imagine having a global platform and using it to talk about garnish like it's enlightenment. Others pointed out the irony. Meghan claimed to speak for everyday people, yet here she was romanticizing floral toppings on overpriced eggs. It wasn't charming, it was clueless. Even more embarrassing, Meghan didn't actually make the Time 100 list that year. She was simply a speaker, not an honoree. Reports suggested her agency had worked behind the scenes to secure the slot, likely to maintain her visibility as her other ventures crumbled. The backlash was swift. Parody videos flooded TikTok. Influencers recreated the moment, holding faux TED Talks on the life-changing power of flower petals. Twitter threads dissected her speech line by line, mocking the tone, the delivery, and the complete lack of substance. And just like that, Meghan's last hope of reclaiming her public image, through intellect, through insight, through gravitas, vanished into thin air. What was meant to position her as a serious thought leader became one of her most mocked appearances to date. And it wasn't just the critics who were rolling their eyes. Even former fans began admitting it was getting harder and harder to defend her, because Meghan wasn't just out of sync, she seemed completely disconnected from the world she claimed to understand. But what made the moment truly damning wasn't the eggs. It was what came next. Because while Meghan was losing the room, the people who once helped build her image were starting to turn against her, and they had plenty to say. While Meghan was busy redefining scrambled eggs, the real damage was happening behind closed doors, and it was finally spilling out. The polished, pastel-colored world Meghan tried so hard to sell was starting to crack. And from those cracks, the voices behind the curtain started whispering, louder than ever before. Former staffers, aides, assistants, people once silenced by NDAs, loyalty, or royal protocol were finally talking. Off the record, of course, but saying the same thing again and again. Working for Meghan Markle was a nightmare. One ex-staffer described it as walking on glass. Another said any small misstep could trigger an outburst. The environment? Tense, volatile, and emotionally draining. Words like controlling, explosive, and impossible kept popping up in anonymous reports. It wasn't just about demanding high standards. It was about blame, manipulation, and a refusal to take accountability. Staff turnover inside Meghan's camp was jaw-dropping. Assistants came and went. PR teams cycled out like a revolving door. Even seasoned professionals who had worked with the royal family for years said they'd never seen anything like it. One insider put it plainly, "She's not trying to lead a team. She's trying to control an image, and anyone who challenges that, gone. But Meghan wasn't the only one under fire. As public trust in her began to erode, Prince Harry stepped in, attempting to do damage control. But instead of diffusing the tension, he lit the match that set the next controversy ablaze. In a televised BBC interview, Harry tried to shift the conversation from Meghan's backlash to their ongoing battle for security. He warned the public that if anything happened to him, Meghan, or their children, the blame would fall on his father, King Charles. Let that sink in. The King of England was battling cancer at the time. Public sympathy was with him, and here was his son, delivering what critics called a veiled threat, suggesting that if tragedy struck, it would be Charles's fault. The blowback was immediate and brutal. Commentators slammed Harry for weaponizing grief. Royal experts accused him of emotional blackmail. Social media erupted, with thousands calling it tone-deaf, manipulative, and disgraceful. One column labeled, "The entire appearance," gaslighting on a global scale. Even inside the palace, sources claimed King Charles was stunned. He reportedly told aides that he no longer felt safe speaking privately with his son, fearing any conversation could be twisted into a PR tactic, and perhaps the most damaging reaction? Silence. Not from the public, from the very people who used to defend Meghan and Harry at every turn. That silence said it all, because for years their story had been clear: escape, survive, heal. But now, people were starting to see a different narrative entirely. One of power plays, strategy, and blame, dressed up as vulnerability. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Because the very machine they once fought to escape, the one where image is everything and control is currency, they didn't walk away from it. They rebuilt it, on their own terms, with their own rules. And the backlash? It's only just beginning. For years, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have tried to tell a story. Their story. It was supposed to be about freedom, about breaking away from the cold traditions of monarchy to live a life of authenticity, purpose, and peace. But now, as lawsuits stack up, projects collapse, and public trust fades, a different story is emerging. One they can't control. Because if there's one thing this entire unraveling has made clear, it's this. They didn't leave the machine. They rebuilt it. Every headline, every product, every carefully lit podcast moment, all of it engineered. Vulnerability became content. Trauma became branding. Jam jars, lemon zest, tears on cue. It's all part of the same performance. And audiences? They're not buying it anymore. The DIY bath salts that sparked a lawsuit. The cooking show canceled in silence. The fake no-makeup podcast breakdown. The royal signature on a lifestyle gift basket. The overpriced under-delivered as ever products. The flower petal monologue that turned her into a meme. The emotional blackmail disguised as a father-son appeal. It's not just a pattern, it's a blueprint. One designed to sell a fairy tale that's slowly crumbling. What started as a fight for privacy has turned into a full-blown PR operation, complete with curated branding, trademark empires, and strategic sound bites. And in chasing control, Meghan and Harry may have lost the one thing they actually needed: trust. Because now, even their most loyal defenders are questioning the script. Former fans are walking away. Major outlets are dialing back their support. And inside Hollywood, the silence is louder than ever. Why? Because what once looked like resilience now feels like manipulation. What once felt empowering now feels exhausting. The "we've been wronged" narrative that once stirred global sympathy is now being met with eye rolls and trending. Hashtags like Damarsh victim fatigue and PR gone wrong. The truth is, Meghan Markle is no longer battling the royal institution. She's battling the backlash of the very brand she built. And the irony? It was all avoidable. If Meghan had truly walked away, if she had embraced privacy instead of monetizing it, if she had let authenticity speak louder than aesthetic, if she had just let go, but she didn't. And now, she's in deeper than ever. The lawsuits won't stop here. The scrutiny won't fade. And the world? It's watching. Not with admiration, but with skepticism. So, is this the collapse of an empire? The final unraveling of a narrative too perfectly polished to be believed? Or is this just another reinvention waiting in the wings? You decide. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Raw, real, unfiltered. And if you want to see what happens next in this never-ending PR saga, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, because the next chapter might be even messier than this one. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you in the next expose.